another question that kind of gets parted about a bit is musical influences.
Mm-hmm.
But I wondered if there was anyone outside of music that kind of had an influence upon you guys.
I mean, like, me and my brother, huge film fans, watched a lot of films, like, get a lot of lyrical inspiration from films. Like, I don't know, like the year before last, while we were making the record, there was this big Andrei Tarkovsky season of films on at the cinema in Sheffield, the showroom. And he's like a Russian kind of surrealist, but more like, it's kind of like magical realism, so it's like kind of like magic is kind of put into these quite kind of dreary Russian scenarios. We watched like a couple of his films, Andrei Rublev and Mirror and Stalker, which is like his most famous science fiction film. And I think like while we're making our latest record, he was like a big influence on that, or his films were.
That's quite cool to hear that. I wasn't expecting that. I really like Tarkovsky.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, have you read his book?
I haven't read his book, no.
It's worth a read,
yeah.
Crazy.
What Time Within Time?
I think it's called Sculpting Within Time.
Oh,
Sculpting with Time.
Sculpting with Time, okay, I'll check it out, yeah.
It's worth it. And so kind of, you've been going, I think, since 2010, so 9 years now. So you've been touring a fair, obviously throughout that you've toured a fair bit.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're touring, is it easy for it to become like Groundhog Day? And if so, is there a way that you kind of avoid that?
Yeah, I mean, when we started out and when we were touring a lot, everything was constantly new, and then I think after like 2 or 3 years, stuff becomes less new, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure it's like ever got too samey, but I think we try and make a bit more time in the day to kind of like go out and explore a bit of a city and kind of like making a new connection with a place whenever we're there. I haven't done that yet in Glasgow, but it'll happen.
And so I did want to get onto the debut album, and I wanted to ask, just to start with the beginning, like the opening track. Was that kind of written as the opening track, or was that something that you had beforehand? Because it feels like a very kind of natural opening to the album, a good way to get it started.
We were. It wasn't the first song we'd written. I think it was like the most recent song that we'd written going into the recording session. And the way that the first album was recorded, I think we went in August 2011, and we went in for 4 days and recorded the first 4 songs on the record. And then we went in again about a year later and recorded the next 4 songs off the record. And then we went in January 2013 and just did the final few songs. But yeah, I think People in Love might have been the first song we recorded at the first session, and like it's got that like big chord, so it's like hello, the record started, and we didn't know we were making an album at the time. We were just recording some stuff, if it's for like an EP or a single or whatever. So we didn't really know that would become the first track. But yeah, like even listening to it now, it's like a big kind of intro track.
And then within the album itself, when you kind of look at the cover, and I've seen you looking at the vinyl as well when you open that, and it's kind of got looks like a cult imagery and kind of stuff like laced throughout it. I just wondered what that came from.
What the cult imagery? It's just like, I mean, for me, it doesn't feel that way, because when I open it, it's just like lots of childhood photos of me and my brother, and I just get too nostalgic, really, and just like lost in the memories rather than like kind of critiquing it as like a piece of design or whatever. But yeah, we just like, I think someone at the label said you've got to have loads of bright colours, otherwise people will think it's like something terrible's happened, like if all these photos are in black and white or whatever. We're like, yeah, sure. So we just like handwritten lyrics and like put this kind of colour wash over some of the photos. It's got like a punk-ish aesthetic to it, but it's not like a stereotypical punk aesthetic, not like, you know, Sex Pistols kind of like ripped out letters and stuff. It's like more, I don't know, it's more thoughtful, more like personal, I think.
Yeah, I mean the cover especially is it's almost got that kind of like jagged edge to the imagery and stuff that is kind of indicative of punk things. Yeah. And so you've kind of spoken about the album as your most experimental yet. Mm-hmm. But did a lot of this experimentation happen in the studio, or did you know beforehand? Were you kind of experimenting before you went in with different musical ideas and that kind
The experimentation happened in the studio. We were kind of like ready to go, kind of got all our songs lined up. We'd rehearsed them. We were like, yeah, ready to record the album. And then we went in, and there's just like multiple things that got in the way of like finishing the first session. So I didn't even think we like got halfway through the tracks. There's just all sorts of stuff going on, some good, some bad, and then we just kind of like we just got to a point where we're like, okay, that's it, and then we'll come back again like next time. The producer had time and he could fit us in, and the next time we went in, it was like I think we kind of realised it wasn't going to be like this nice, smooth, easy process. We were like, this is going to be kind of like quite kind of stop start, and then when we realised that, it was like that's fine because we can just take our time with it a bit and kind of tweak stuff and think about stuff, and a lot more of the ideas were kind of came from kind of like more spontaneous things or things outside of the studio, because like people would go away, do stuff, come back and go like, oh, I think we should do this track in this way, or we should try this stuff this way around. And I'm not saying this is how all albums should be made, and I don't think I'd ever want to make another album in that way ever again, but it was a really like nice thing to do. Yeah.
And when I was listening to it, there was one like specific part of that experimentation that jumped out at me. As a saxophone player, I wasn't expecting to hear a saxophone solo.
Oh right, yeah.
Where did that kind of come from? What was the kind of inspiration, idea behind that?
Well, I just want our dad. It's our dad playing sax on that track, and like he's like been our big musical influence ever since we've grown up. And like whenever I think about music, I usually end up thinking about like my dad playing saxophone, or like listening to records with our dad or whatever. And I was like, oh, we have to get him on the record. Like every record I make, it's kind of like, this could be our last record. And we've done 2, and I was like, why hasn't he been on either of them? So with this one, I was like, Dad, you have to come and play saxophone on this record. He's like really cool about it. He's like, well, we'll see. And then I had this track, and I was like, this would really work with a saxophone, because like the imagery of the track has like this school like on fire, this like prom night thing going on up in flames, and I was like the saxophone is like musically symbolic of flames for me. Like when I hear saxophone, it's like closest instrument sound that you can get to like fire. So I was like, oh, it's perfect. I just sent the track over to my dad without the saxophone. I was like, Dad, I really think this would be a good track for you to play saxophone on. And he was like, not sure about it. It's a bit like dirgy, and like imagery's a bit like violent, and it's a bit grim. I had to like really like work to kind of like convince him that it was worth his time. And he came in one evening after work, and he did like 16 takes of just freestyling over the second half of the track, and then the next day we went into the studio, and we just took all these takes, and we just cut them in Pro Tools, and just kind of like cut little bits out and built this arrangement around the track. And it's just like one of the most incredible creative experiences in a studio that I've had. Just taking a lot of stuff, like very freeform. He'd like worked bits out, but he didn't like have the part. He was just kind of like messing around with it, and just kind of piecing together this thing afterwards was really rewarding.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, cool idea.
Yeah.
One thing you also mentioned there was the kind of imagery in the record and kind of the lyricism. I just wondered, is that something that you kind of think is born out of the times that we live in, kind of in 2018, or something the record was written, or it was like kind of separate from that and it was just something different?
It's just the way I write lyrics. I find it easier to remember stuff that like I can visually remember. But I wouldn't say I don't know, but like some stuff I listen to and lyrically it's like very like what's going on there, and then other stuff I don't know is like a bit more personal. But with me, I think I just go for like big brushstroke painting lyrics. Yeah.
I mean, the songs almost are like in some cases like you say paintings, like the way that they kind of the lyricism works in them. But kind of looking back on the first record as well, with a bit of time having passed since both of them, because it must be, what is it, 6 years since the first one now?
Yeah, 5 or 6 years. Yeah, yeah.
Kind of looking back on those two records, what are your feelings kind of on them now? Are you still pretty proud of them?
Yeah, massively proud of them. Like prouder than I thought I would be of them as well. Like when you put out a record, you can just easily be like, oh yeah, that was just me when I was like that age or whatever. But like, but that first album just has this like really mental energy in it that I'm really into. The guitars sound amazing on that record, and then on Undertow as well. I think like we got this like really strong mood, really strong narrative across. Yeah, really into both those records.
And so we touched upon the songwriting as well earlier. And when you're songwriting, is it all written down in a notepad, or how do you what's your process for getting everything out and down on it?
I think it used to be that way. I used to like grab a notepad and write some lyrics because I thought that was the way. But then more recently, I actually I just kind of like splurge now and just type loads of shit into a laptop and then kind of edit afterwards. I find that a much easier way of doing it, like to cut down rather than like build up. That's how I'm working currently. But yeah, like previously it has been like notebooks and pens and kind of going, put that there and stuff. But yeah.
And now is it almost been 10 years of Drenge? Well, yeah, so 2010, 2019. Next year will be your 10th year anniversary of the band.
Yeah.
Obviously everyone changes over time. I just wondered, how do you kind of think you've developed since the first record as a person? Does that affect your music?
I'm a lot more. I know. I'm a lot more chill. I think a lot less angry, which I think is just like a natural thing when you're in your early 20s. It's like there's that Tupac interview on Kendrick's album where he's going like, when you're a young man, you got all that energy and all that fire, and then by the time you're like 27, you've passed it. Definitely past it. But like, that's just like you kind of get all that anger out of your system, and then you just go off do like making more interesting stuff. Like when it comes to being creative with music or writing or whatever it is, like my like whatever viewfinder is like a lot wider. I'm a lot less narrow-minded about like where I take my influences from. I listen to a much wider variety of music than I did when I was younger, and I feel like that's reflected in the music that we make.
Yeah, and that anger that you spoke about that everyone has in the kind of younger.
Yeah.
Do you think that limits the music in a way, or?
Yeah, well, there's also like a gendered thing to it as well. Like being an angry man is like different to being an angry woman, and like I feel like a lot of like male anger is like expressed through this quite kind of like how much volume, how much like rage, and like like an angry man. How much of an angry man can I be? Whereas like I feel like anger through women's music is like a lot more subtle, a lot more interesting. You don't have as many bands as like women kind of raging in the way that kind of like men do, but that's because like women rage in a different way.
Yeah, I'll finish on one last thing actually. I'll finish on one track.
Okay.
Teenage Love, I think that's probably my favourite song on the album. I just wanted to ask the process kind of behind it to wrap up.
We wanted to have a weird time signature track on the album, which is always like a great way to like write a song. Just kind of go, we want to have one that's got a weird time signature, and we kind of like came up with this thing that was working for us, and just kind of looped it. We were using computers in our writing process, so kind of taking stuff and like copying it and copying it and copying it, and trying to make a computer understand the weird time signature that you've just written. It's like, I don't know, that was like an interesting experience trying to tell a computer that like, no, you want it to be this way, even though the computer's like, no, you want 4/4. You're like, no, we want 17/16. And when you write something that's a bit weird, but like it still has that kind of natural feel to it, like in the choruses, it becomes a lot kind of straighter and a lot more kind of like poppier. Doesn't have that weird kind of extra beat tacked onto the end, and so oh shit. So we just kind of like messed around with that, and then like it was like originally like a bit of like it sounded like early Drenge. It was like a lot more kind of like guitars and stuff. And then we just went into the studio one day, and like our producer was like, "No, we're going to turn this into like a club banger." He just took out all the kind of like unnecessary beats that were in unnecessary like not beat like all the hits in there that were just like making it into this like quite kind of like charged tune, and it just became a bit more like rhythmical and a bit more fun, and stuck a load of synths on it, and
Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right.